Welcome to Cobras and Fire. My name is Bakko, and I am joined by Jizzy Pearl. Now, Jizzy, I was kind of debating on how to introduce you to the show. I mean, you're an author. We're going to be talking about your book today. But I like the way you kind of phrase it on your website. You know, you're the original singer of Love Hate. That's pretty much what made you famous. But you've been in Rat, LA Guns, and you're currently fronting Quiet Riot. How would you introduce yourself, I guess is my question there.
I think you did it splendidly.
That sounds well, I appreciate that. You mentioned you're still out in Vegas. This is a good time of year to be in Vegas, isn't it?
It's a little cold, not obviously as cold as where you are, but yeah, I mean, I'm enjoying it. You know, in about 6 months, it's going to be like the surface of the sun. So I'll be on the road by then, so I'll miss that.
Yeah, I did talk to Jakey Lee. He lives out there too, and he said there's like 100 days of 100 degrees or something like that. Like they call it. That's I don't know. I could probably deal with that better than the cold, but I don't know. Look where the fuck I'm at. So, well, we're looking at 2 years into the pandemic. Let me just knock this out of the way. Have you managed to get this far without contracting COVID, or did it get you?
I had it last year, yeah, and got over it. I mean, it wasn't pleasant, but I didn't, you know what I mean? It wasn't anything life-threatening or anything like that.
All right. Well, with that time down, aside from writing this book, what did you do to keep busy? I talked to a lot of musicians that obviously it affected your industry pretty heavily. So how did you keep from going crazy?
I mean, I think what it did was kind of give everyone a wake-up call that musicians have always been able to go to the apple tree if we needed a few apples, and they dug up the tree, and there were, you know what I mean? So I think that it gave everyone a good indicator of what do you do when there's no gigs and there's no work. You know, you have to diversify. You have to you know, think of other options, which is one of the reasons why I wrote this new book.
And but was that made the main focus of what you're doing? I guess I know you did some reprints of the previous books as well. But I guess what I'm getting at, any painting, anything, you're stuck in the where you're living there, you know.
I did actually. I made another record. I made a record that's coming out in March on Golden Robot. It's called California. So actually, I reprinted my other books, and so yeah.
All right. Fair enough. I got to know Love Hate basically through the song Dope, but I actually didn't know Jizzy Pearl until I want to say Metal Sludge. I started reading that in 98, 99. Do you get that a lot? That a lot of people know you? They've heard of maybe Love Hate, but they got to know you more as an individual through that site. I know you did a lot of like 20 questions and things of that nature.
A lot of guys thought that I was the guy behind it.
I was gonna ask you that.
That was a long time ago. I mean, when Stevie was sort of anonymous, there was questions. Was it me or was it someone else or something like that? But yeah, I mean, I suppose when I joined LA Guns the first time in 1997 or 1998, I think I reintroduced Love Hate music to a lot of people because we had sort of been forgotten. And so everyone sort of went back and revisited, you know, my earlier band, and that probably helped.
You said that a lot of people accused you of running the site. How long into it did you always know it was Stevie? No.
Okay. Yeah. So maybe it was me.
Another thing you did that you had a KNAC webcam in your apartment for a while. I'm sorry if I'm taking you down memory lane. This is the first time I've got you. I promise we're going to be talking about the book here. But I got to tell you, well, first of all, that was very cutting edge, at least at the time. There wasn't a lot of people doing stuff like that. But I myself remember watching basically an empty, I don't know if it was a living room or something like that, for about 20 to 30 minutes before I kind of tapped out.
Well,
It was
I
on
needed
24/7, if I remember right.
right. I'm always trying to market, stuff, and I had that new book, which was, of course, an old book, and I had an idea, and those guys lent me some computers, and yeah, I mean, it's kind of like I'm doing a YouTube channel now called J Pearl TV. It's the same thing. I mean, I'm trying to market my new book in a way that I can have control. So that's what I'm doing with the new YouTube site.
I guess I don't want to get too much in the business side, but when you do the book yourself, you kind of really get a much bigger percentage, basically. I mean, but is it?
Well,
I
yeah,
saw you with
but
the
you
pallet of
gotta,
books outside your house too.
yeah, but you got to put up the cash too. You
Right.
know, and yeah, you make the money, but you have to take the risk. So it's a trade off.
Every one of your books sold out prior to this, so you had to feel pretty good about it, right?
I'm glad people read. You know, it's a lost art, and
Yeah. Are you
glad
kidding?
that people. I'm glad that people. Well, I mean, in my fans or people in my general genre are older now anyway, so they're not going out partying as much as they used to. So they probably appreciate having a book, to curl up with by the
Mhm.
fire.
And it's a fun read. A couple more things before we get to that. Uh, these all these legacy kind of acts are selling publishing. It just got me curious in prep for this. Who do you know who owns Love Hates Publishing?
Well, we all do.
Or you guys retained ownership of it?
Yeah. Well,
A
we
lot of
signed a
things.
publishing deal, 30 something years ago. So everyone's got a piece of those songs, but you can't, you can't, you own the publishing of the song. You don't own the recording. Do you understand?
I do.
So Columbia Records owns those recordings of Blackout in the Red Room, but they don't own the songs per se. So I could, like Cleopatra Records did a thing for years where everyone went in and re-recorded their songs. So you're allowed to do that. But
Is that the latest and greatest? That's why you guys
yeah,
did that? Okay.
yeah.
Did it? I mean, was it profitable?
Well, I mean, it's a long time ago, man. I mean, I just
Okay. I'm sorry. Well, what about the last thing on Love Hate? At least as far as the original lineup, do you keep in touch with any of those guys anymore? The original Skid, John,
the
Joey.
drummer I do. The drummer I talk to occasionally. The other guys, no, I
Okay.
don't.
I did catch Jizzy Pearl's Love Hate on the Holodio tour. I'd be fascinated to hear your take on the whole hologram artist performance.
Well, at the time, everyone was sort of bagging on it, but I was the opening band, so I felt it was my duty to defend it. Mixed feelings about it. I Whitney Houston, they're doing one in Vegas now of a
Yeah.
hologram. I mean, I just, I guess if people want to go see it, then that's okay. If they don't want to go see it, then that's okay too. It's kind of like bands like us, Quiet Riot or Warrant or Night Ranger. People bag on it, but if you don't want to go, don't go. You know what I
Well,
mean?
it's that pretty
And
easy.
if you're into it, have a good time. So that's my feeling on it.
I was a little let down by the actual end product. I thought it'd be a little more three-dimensional, more frontal, I guess. And I was a little confused with the two singers. I mean, there was a hologram tired or something like that. But
Well,
did you get a better look
it's
at it, maybe getting
basically,
up close?
um, you're supposed to suspend reality.
I get it, but
Okay, you're not supposed to sit there and I mean, you could sit there with a notebook and a clipboard and pick the shit of apart. You know what I mean? But you're supposed to embrace the idea of Dio and look. I toured with Dio for years, and I was friends with the guy.
a few different times,
So,
correct?
yeah, so I mean, I knew the guy. I hung with the guy. I drank booze with the guy. You know what I mean? So it was maybe weirder for me to see it, but then again, I realized that it's a theater piece. So, take it for what it is.
All right. Fair enough. Quiet Riot fires up I don't know, more gigs to starting the end of February. Pretty much goes through like summer based on the dates I looked at. Are you, I guess with everything, it does seem like Omicron is kind of turned around. I hate to be a downer, but are any conversations or concerns about like going out in this environment right now? That kind of stuff.
There's, everyone takes precautions. The meet and greets are completely weird and because you're separated,
Right.
and so a lot of bands don't do them. We've done a couple, and they're not the same, obviously. And you just, when you're out on the road, you just have to take care of yourself, and if you take care of yourself, you won't get sick, hopefully, and that's kind of all you can do.
On that note, your voice still sounds great, and your style of singing, frankly, isn't one that traditionally wears late in life. What do you do basically to keep yourself sounding sharp? And you look good too,
I just don't I don't party like I used to. Really.
Simple as that.
I mean, I take care of myself, and I try and stay healthy, and that's I'm just lucky in the sense that there's been guys that I know that just don't have strong voices, and they sound really good in the studio, but when you get them out on the road doing 2, 3, 4 gigs in a row, they just don't have that kind of voice. So luckily, I come from that Dio school of powerful lungs, and I've held up. So it's killer.
And everything with the turnover and Quiet Riot, you kind of touched on a little bit, like some people just want to bash on it. Overall, how are the audiences been digging the show since Frankie's passed, especially?
Well, obviously, having Rudy Sarzo back in the band does help a lot. Because people really, people dig him, and they really want to see him, and so that helps. And anyone that wants to go to a QR show or is interested, you're going to see Rudy. You're going to see the guy that you saw in the videos. I mean, he looks ageless. He looks exactly the same, and so that he brings a lot.
You were actually in the band and then replaced for a bit by. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not being a dick. I just can't remember the kid's name. The American Idol guy. Anyway, what was up with the split, and then how did you end up coming back?
I just didn't want to do it, and I wanted to do my own thing. And then Frankie got sick, and I got a call, and he had cancer, and I have a history of my family with cancer, so I could relate. And I stepped back in, and we did a bunch of gigs with Frankie when he was sick, but it was really good. You wouldn't have known that he was sick because he played spot on.
Yeah.
And so we did get that time together, to sort of reunite, and so that was great.
That's cool, man. He was just a phenomenal drummer. You do have a show booked up. I think it's in May in Nashville, a thing called Creatures Fest. Now, I don't know how heavy you dig into your itinerary. Are you aware of the show, or do you know what it is?
I've seen the ad for it, yeah.
Now, have you ever met Vinnie Vincent?
No. I know. He's got this reputation. So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Well, I think I'm optimistic for the show because of everybody else. I'm not out trying to put you in the spot, Jizzy. This is my opinion. I don't think he's going to be there, but anyway, we'll see. I hope he does. To be honest with you, it'd be kind of nice to see him come out and play. But I'm a closet Kiss fan at this point. But all right, let's get to your latest book, All the Devils. Now, you had 3 books prior to this. I Got More Crickets and Friends, Angst for the Memories, and Unhappy Endings. Did I get the titles and the order right? I
Yes.
have read the first and third book. I had never got Angst for the Memories, but you just recently released them, so or reprinted them, so maybe I'll get a copy here. Your writing style is a lot of fun. You basically infuse fiction and fact pretty much at certain points. I would say a little more heavy on fiction, but I don't know, to be honest with you. Sometimes that's the fun of it. And I promise you, I say this complimentary. It's a great bathroom read. Because you can just hammer through a quick chapter. You know what I mean? You might take a little longer to sleep. With the copy you sent me, obviously prep for this, I didn't get to do it this time, but it's very much the same style of the other books, but I think you took it up a notch. What was the inspiration and what do you want to say?
It's just a continuation. But the person that's writing it now is a different person than he was back then. The guy back in the day was kind of like a Viking, you know what I mean? Swinging his sword and pulling into the village and raping and pillaging. And those were good times. And those times are in the book. And they were good times, but it would be silly to be that guy at my age now. So I guess the stories are still going to be good and whatever, shocking, but maybe not as quite as harsh as some of the other stuff in the other books. So because I'm a different person, I'm older and wiser and married and in a different headspace.
Sure. You definitely dig into the 80s LA band scene more than you do the other books, which I personally enjoyed a lot of it. Have you ever thought about writing a straight up Jizzy Pearl autobiography?
Not really. I come from that era, so it's almost like I'm a war correspondent. Being able to tell people what it was like to be on the Sunset Strip during that Guns N' Roses era and before, you know what I mean, when I was a kid, and be able to tell the tale. And so, people do ask me, what was it like? And so I think this book does give people a good idea of, all the fun and games and the shenanigans and the highs and the lows, because it was competition, it was struggle, it was poverty, it was drinking all night, it was danger, but you know what I mean? It was also getting the record deal and being able to, open up for AC/DC and Dio and Ozzy and, on and on and on.
I like that part where you were talking about it was a Nirvana documentary, and they were talking about them playing somewhere in London, and you're like, I've played there. I don't know, it was relatable. I mean, you've had to run into a lot of that.
Well, in England, especially because I was more famous over there, I had a period of time when I was, on the covers of magazines, and it was, it was pretty crazy. So, yeah, when I talk about Nirvana going over there and oh my God, they're breaking big, they're selling out these big places. It did bring back a little bit of remembrance for me because I was in the same. Obviously, they
Right.
shot past me, but yeah, I was in that little bubble of fame at that time.
And I'll tell you from my own perspective as a failed musician, I found a lot of your stories about the pre-signing stuff extremely relatable. It's easy to laugh about it now, but I too was very uncomfortable selling tickets to my own shows. And when I would, it would be I was really bad at it.
Well, the thing is at that time, and obviously you couldn't, you can't, you can read it, but you weren't there, so
Right.
you don't quite. I mean, it was like being in Vietnam because it was competition and it was combat and it was stress and it was struggle. You know, when when your ass is on the line and you're not really doing music for a hobby, you're doing it, to cross over to get a record deal. I mean, it's a mission. It isn't just well, if it doesn't happen, then I'll just go back to my UPS job. I mean, basically it was this or jump out the effing window. So, you know, everything's on the line and all your friends are getting record deals. And so, yeah, but at the end, there's a happy ending. You know what I mean? I got to make all that great music and got to experience all that stuff.
You talk about the 4 stages of super fans. That was one of my favorite chapters. Is there any story that you can share with me that you didn't put in the book? Like I want one of the crazy ones, I guess, but or something funny. Fandom is weird because sometimes I consider myself a super fan, but I'm probably more stage 1.
You know, it's an experience. You know, when I could not understand what guys like Tommy Lee have to go through. You know what I mean? If Tommy Lee goes to the mall, it's just a whole different situation than if I go to the mall, or if, you know what I mean? And he's used to it. And, you know, it's a different time because the internet is so invasive. It's just different. I think back in the day, it was just different. Now with the internet, everybody wants to know everything about you right now. You know, they want the whole Wikipedia of you. And that's the difference is that it's hard to have some mystery. You know, it's hard to have something for yourself that you don't want to share with people, because everybody, they want to just push a couple of buttons and get you, you know, so it's weird times.
I actually wonder sometimes, like if that access was available when I was, you know, like in my formative years, becoming a fan of all these bands that I was getting into, because I would have loved to have been able to get access to all these catalogs of all these artists in a quicker way. But I don't know that I'd be as big a fan if I did, you know what I mean? I just,
well, I think nowadays, because of the internet, again, I just think, you know, bands are like Kleenex. You know what I mean? You take a Kleenex and you listen to the band, and then when you're done with that Kleenex, you get another Kleenex. And so there isn't. That's why bands like us, or bands from my time, like the Skid Row, the Warrant, the LA Guns, that's why they're able to tour year after year after year and consistently do it, is because there's a loyal fan base of people that they grew up with that stuff, and they'll go to the shows and they'll buy the records. And so, you know, if they didn't go to the shows, then we wouldn't be doing what we're doing. I mean, we've got Quiet Riot's got almost 40 or 50 shows right now, and then we may do even 60 or more shows this year. I mean, that's a lot of work for guys in their late 90s. You know what I mean?
I gotta turn that 9 around. When was the last time you went flyering for a gig? I'm not suggesting it was recent, but yeah.
No, I don't. Once I got my record deal, the flyering ended.
So 1990. Hey, does that still happen in LA? Like,
I don't know. I would say no, because the city of West Hollywood, when it incorporated and became a city, they cracked down on the Strip. The Strip used to be, I mean, you used to be able to park easily. You used to be able to flyer, and it was a mess every night. You used to be able to put flyers on telephone poles. Now, from what I heard, once the city incorporated, they would just fine you. You know what I mean? So no, you can't actually do that kind of stuff anymore there.
I asked because I was recently in Seattle, and they still do it there. And I don't think I could have appreciated the way you described it. It's basically like a almost like a phone book layer of flyers around these poles, man. You know, a little boy from St. Paul, Minnesota, don't you know? You don't see a lot of that here. It's not quite. We use the windshields.
Well, it's silly. I mean, if you think about it,
Yeah.
but it was just sort of us marking our territory for whatever, 10 or 15 minutes, come see my band, come see my band. We look exactly like the other band on the other flyer, but trust me, we're a lot better. It was a funny, silly time.
In hindsight, it seems it was really more for you to show other bands what you were doing. Um, I don't think anybody ever came to a show I played because of flyer I put somewhere.
Well, you did it because it was part of the job. You went out every night
True.
to network because there was no internet. I mean, it was the only word of mouth was the only way to get people to notice your band.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So it wasn't flyering and all that stuff. It was a necessity back then. Nowadays it of course it seems antiquated, but that was the only way to get people to look at your band.
Yeah. You brought up something in the book. This isn't even a question. I just wanted to share this with you. You apparently are a Marianne guy. I just wanted to go on the record that I'm Ginger, Team Ginger. So.
All right. Well, hey, to each his own.
Hey, at least we wouldn't be fighting for the same girl on the island. You know what I mean? You talk about your Jizzy Pearl message board. I posted at least a handful of things on there. I actually thought message boards were fun, but there was a dark side to those things at a certain point. A little surprised to find out you got catfish, Jizzy.
Yeah, once a long time ago. I was back in my MySpace days.
The early days of catfishing too, I would assume. But was it even a term then?
I don't think it was a term, but it happens. It happened to a lot of people, not just me. It happens to I know guys that it happened to too, and it's just girls pretending to be models, trying to get some attention from rock guys. I mean, it still goes on.
It's a weird thing to even. I just can't wrap my head around it. How many pairs of crusty socks have any of your women found in your couch? Another book reference.
No crusty socks for me. No crusty socks for me. You're referencing the book,
Mm-hmm.
obviously.
Yeah. Oh, yes. This is a chapter in the book. A guy.
There's a story in this new book about, and again, it's because it's observational. My wife watches some YouTube stuff about Swedish girls living in the wilderness, and they've got millions of hits, and they make jewelry and watch me make a fire, and I'm going to the well, this is how I get my water, and it just seems it's very idyllic, and of course my story takes it to the creepy level, as it should. And so that's kind of where that goes.
Well, for listeners of our program, the crusty socks is definitely going to be a highlight of the book. It's kind of been an on-running joke, the jerk socks, since our show started. That's where we're at as far as a level.
As far as the elevation of the humor.
Right? Yeah, exactly. We keep the brow pretty low. But we cater to our audience, apparently. I guess that maybe a better way to look at it.
Well, then if that's what your audience is, then your audience should go out and buy my book, because
absolutely
it's got Mo, Larry, and Curly.
Mm-hmm. And it's only available at jizzypearl.net, correct?
Yeah. Jizzypearl.net is the website, and JPearl TV is my YouTube channel. So it's a good way to connect for me and for people to get into that sort of Monty Python-ish type humor, which I dig.
Absolutely. I do find the first writing I read of yours was actually on the original Love Hate website. I don't think it's around anymore, but you had kind of a biography that you wrote of the band, kind of like a small version, but it was the way you told it was very, I don't know, it's easy to see how you got into writing a book, I guess is all I'm getting at there, but it was, you didn't hide any of the dirt, but it didn't come off malicious. You know what I mean? It was very believable.
Well, at the time I was very malicious.
Well, you put dirt out there, but you felt that you were being mean on purpose?
No, I felt like I needed to tell the truth a little bit.
Yeah,
That's all.
that's what it came across as.
Yeah, I mean, I look, as far as, you know, being a screw up and stuff like that, I totally own everything I did in the past. When I screw up, I own it, and it's part of the process. Again, it's like the people that make fun of people that win the lottery and they screw up and they blow all their money, and they say, "Oh, if that was me, I would never do that. I would save all my money." You know what? You wouldn't. If you were opening on a stadium stage with AC/DC, you would go a little crazy yourself, with all the sex, drugs, and rock and roll. You just would, because it's there for the taking. You know what I mean? I mean, you're Fonzie, for want of a better word.
Hey,
And so Fonzie can get in trouble, very
you see that?
easily. Yeah.
Right.
So that's kind of where that and in the love hate history that was a that was me just wanting to get it out there,
Mhm.
the good, the bad, and the ugly, and that was a while ago.
Yeah, I lost where I was going with that. With Love Hate, I thought that they could have been one of those bands, especially the timing. It's weird how you got lumped more in with like the LA scene than where music was going, because from my perspective, you guys musically, image wise, everything, you had more in common with, say, Alice in Chains and Soundgarden than you did Warrant or Poison. I thought you came from a more honest place. I just with the benefit of hindsight, I thought you would have. I think you would have fit in better than it ended up working out, I guess.
Yeah, or we might not have happened at all.
Sure. Well, there's that.
That's you can't Monday morning quarterback stuff like that. Oh, if we'd have came out a year or two before, what would it? You know what I mean? Well,
Yeah.
maybe a year or two before, one of us would have gotten, jumped out a window or OD'd or something like that. I mean, it's just the rock gods give people certain amounts of fame and fortune, and most guys don't get anything. So you have to be satisfied with what they do give you. You know what I mean? And as for me, 32 years and I'm still working. I make more money now than I did when I had $1 million contract on CBS. So
You
it's
hear
all
that a
good.
lot. And does it ever feel, I don't know how to, you guys in your position, what I mean by that is that, like, you had enough success to maintain a career, but now a lot of you're very hands-on this late in your career. Does it ever feel, I don't know, tiresome? Do you ever have days where you just go, this is just not worth it? Or is it just a passion that never goes
You
away?
mean music?
Just in general, like everything you're doing, I mean, it's a lot to keep up with, just your day-to-day stuff, writing a book, doing the self-publishing, touring
No.
with Quiet Riot.
Answer your question is hell no.
Okay.
I'm totally blessed to be doing what I'm doing. Everybody has stress in their lives. Everybody, I mean, the lockdown, a lot of people lost their businesses, lost their livelihoods. I just couldn't gig for a year. I mean, that boo-hoo, you know what I mean?
Fair enough.
Maybe for people that don't have any money or don't have any saved money or don't have any, nest egg or whatever. Yeah, probably a pretty scary time, but I'm totally blessed to be able to just do what I want to do artistically. You know what I mean? It's killer.
And you touched on this a little bit in the book, I think right at the beginning, but I can attest, I can agree. It really, you find out how well you married pretty quickly when you're stuck home alone for a few weeks. Well, it worked out for me. It sounds like it did for you too.
Well, yeah, having a good marriage is definitely better than having a shitty one.
That's a bumper sticker for you. All right. Well, I do highly recommend the book to anybody that checked out this interview. And fans of Jizzy, if you've read any of his other books, I think you're going to be blown away by this one. It's much better, and I loved them all, so that wasn't a shot. But yeah, go to jizzypearl.net. Get all you can get links to everything. You mentioned the YouTube channel that you just somewhat recently launched, correct? Is you any big surprises coming in there for you? I see you're kind of adding all the records.
Well, Jizzo's Hollywood Stories. I mean, I talk about how I hung on the Hollywood sign. I mean, it's a good story, and
Yeah.
and so I'm starting to do some of these Hollywood stories, and it's just a visual of stuff that could be in the books. You know what I mean? It's just me sort of being video guy. You know what I mean? And like I said, it's a good way to pimp my own books, but it's also a good way to express. You know what I mean? And once I start going on the road, I'll do more tour related stuff, and you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
People like that. I mean, they like to see, the travel and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, it's just, it's fun, and it's enjoyable.
Absolutely. Anything in the works for Jizzy Pearl's Love Hate?
Well, my record comes out in March, and it's a good record. It's better than my Frontiers record, which was good. And yeah, I mean, I'm happy with it. I'm proud of it. And there's been a couple of songs leaked out over the months, and yeah, I think it's a great record. And so yeah, that'll be out in about a month.
I wanted to ask you on that hologram Dio tour. Who was in the band with you?
I had one of my Vegas guys on bass. I had Mike Dubkey on drums. I played with him before. He was in Wasp for a while, and he's great. And I had my English guitar player Stevie Pierce, who flew out from London, and he did the tour with me. And yeah, that was it.
All right on. Well, yeah. Anything else you want to plug? This has been a lot of fun. But
JizzyPearl.net for the books, and JPearl TV for the YouTube channel, and subscribe. I got to be one of those get the notification guys, hit the bell guys.
I always forget that.
I always hate when people do that, but now that I'm in it, I know why they do it. And yeah, that's it.
And if you happen to be watching this video, people at home, make sure you hit the subscribe button at the bottom there.
Yeah.
Anyway, so you get notifications of all this great stuff. A lot of jerk sock stories coming without Jizzy Pearl involved. So anyway, well, Jizzy, this has been fun. I've looked forward to this. Like I said, I'm a bit of a fan. I followed your career. I've seen you with Rat a handful of times. Got to see Love Hate in '98 with Dio at a. Maybe you remember this only because of what the fucking place was. It was Medina, Minnesota. But you would only remember.
Yeah, I remember.
Above a bowling alley. The stage was upstairs. Underneath, people were bowling while you're playing. Did you even get a chance to see that? It's just a weird thing.
So many gigs.
Yeah. Well, like I said, it's only notable for that because it's basically in the sticks. It's barely in the metro area. But anyway,
with the live Dio.
With the live, yes, that was with the live deal. Although it had kind of a small stage and a short ceiling there too. I didn't get a good look at him that day. He's his voice is taller than he is, I guess.
Yeah, that's an interesting way of putting it, but yeah, it's true.
Well, I want to be complimentary. I'm just calling the guy short. I wasn't taking a shot. We are what we are. But all right, Jizzy, you have a good night and all the best, man.
Peace.